It was 2023 September when I flew into Sydney, Australia to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within event, where I met these two then lost barber guys sitting in front of me in the stadium, thinking whether they should continue being barbers and making a living from their expertise, or make that big and hard decision to go and start their big dream of building a personal brand and a digital business. Well, in this episode, you're going to hear that they did the latter and went on to generate more than 7 figures, more than $1 million since I first met them in Sydney. And in this video, you're going to hear about how they endured all the difficulties, what mindset changes they had to go through, and what is the exact business model they used in order to get there. Please enjoy the video. So we got Owen and Lee in the studio with us, and we're going to talk about how they went from barbers to becoming a 7-figure business owners, online digital business owners, and absolute legends. So we met back then in 2023 at the Tony Robbins event, and I remember you guys going through this difficult time of like cutting or not cutting hair, right? Like you have an expertise and you want to kind of rise above that. Like you want to help other people build their businesses as well, because at that point you already realized there's so much more for you to do in business with your knowledge. So can you share a little bit about what was that like pivotal moment that inspired you to shift from barbering to coaching other barbers and actually building a digital business?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you.
It's been quite the journey. You know, we started out, as you said, as barbers, and we met in Australia. We used to work together in a barbershop, and we were quite good at barbering, like really good. You know, when I say quite good, I mean really good. And eventually, over time, people started to ask us how we were doing things. So we started to teach it, like kind of just stumbled across it, you know. And when we started out doing that, we never imagined that it would end up in a place like this. We never thought we're going to become 7-figure business owners or make $1 million online. We never thought that. It just kind of naturally happened. And, you know, one thing that we realized when we were teaching barbers and coaching them through the hair stuff, because that's how it started, was technical skill set. We realized it doesn't matter how good these people get if they don't know how to plug it into a business. So then we realized, that's the real problem. It's not the skill set, because some of the best barbers in the world charge just as much as some of the worst. And we were like, okay, something's not quite right here. So I guess some of the key ingredients for us in building what we've built today have been like brand, in particular a personal brand, like as the second big thing. And, you know, we were heavily influenced early days by some of the OGs in the online space, such as Gary Vee. Lee was a massive Ty Lopez fan. And like all of these guys just preach nonstop document versus create. And you know, we've had multiple iterations now of our business. It's been an academy teaching people how to cut hair. Now it's an online product, you know, and COVID kind of forced us to do that. It was like, well, we had this great academy. It was all in person. Lockdowns happened. Melbourne, where we were living at the time, was the most locked down city in the world. So we had to adapt like any, you know, great business owner does. Not saying that I'm a great business owner, but, you know, I just look at other people in the space and model what they're doing. So we adapted to an online kind of model. And then, you know, it's funny enough, Damo here is behind the camera over in the corner here. He was one of my first ever, actually the first ever coaching client that I had.
Wow.
So he reached out and said, hey, do you do like mentorship or anything like that? I was like, yeah, I guess. And
Ching ching.
That's just kind of like how the idea started, and it kind of blossomed from there. And, you know, I would attribute a lot of like the success that we've had in business so far to actually getting mentors ourselves, because it opened up the awareness around like, oh, this space actually exists and people are helping people in a very, very impactful way, and they're able to make a lot of money and they're able to install a lot of freedom into their lives. So that's kind of where Unlimited was born in the grand scheme of things. But that's a very quick synopsis on like the journey so far.
Yeah, it's a great explanation of the journey. I would say one more inflection point of the transition from actually physically doing the hair, because we were teaching hair. We weren't just cutting hair, we were teaching hair, and that still required us to be there physically. One of the big ones I think that has guided us is understanding our purpose, mission, and our values. Like we see it all the time in the digital space, that, or any business, a lot of people don't even know why they're building the thing that they're building, and they end up building a thing that they don't like. They grow into pain. So for us, we always come back together once or twice a year, and we make sure that we're guiding the ship in the right direction. And for us, even though the teaching of the hair was going great, like we're the biggest hair education company in Australia, like one of the only companies that was doing it full time, coming back to our values and our mission, it still wasn't meeting the mission, and it still wasn't meeting our values personally too. We weren't serving on the level that we knew we could. we weren't solving big enough problems, and we weren't living the way that we wanted to. And so that was, we always come back to that drawing board and we're like, this is the direction that we're going in. So that kind of facilitated the transition as well.
So starting out your online business essentially starts when you figure out your values, your personal mission and the company mission, how you serve others, how you help them get through to the next level. And most people miss that. I actually love that. We recently went to an event together, a mastermind of Matt Gray, who we both like, and he really talks about a personal philosophy and life manifesto. Have you guys individually and also together wrote that for the company, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how the business has worked so well, like so far, like from a partnership standpoint, like in how we work together. We're very clear on like what the purpose of the business is, and that's to help people live an unlimited life, whatever that looks like to them. We've identified like a model and how to do that. Like in order for somebody to live an unlimited life, they first need to make money somehow, impact with the work that they do, and to have a model that allows them to have freedom in their lives. So we call that the unlimited model, and we do that by attracting people into our world through personal brand, content, and retaining them through like service and nurture and leadership. And then we build a great delivery system for them to go through. So like having a really good plan, developing systems, and having a model that can grow to where our lives want to go, not just grow for the sake of growing. And I think that's something that we're really proud of, is like our decisions and the choices that we've made so far to get us to this point. Because it's really easy these days in the online world to get kind of shiny object syndrome and like chase the next kind of hot thing and the next trend. But all trends eventually come to an end. And, you know, we've been in business before multiple times together now. This is our kind of, I would say, third iteration of the business. And on the first one, I was like fully locked in thinking that this was it. Like, this is the thing that we're going to do forever until something happens and it changes. And I think one of the kind of keys for us is having that ability to just shift and change with it. But what we really want to kind of, I guess, help our people with and do for ourselves is to build a business that serves our life, not a life that serves our business. And like, that's the key piece. So anything that comes along, opportunities will come along all the time. Like the more you grow online, the bigger your personal brand becomes, whatever it is, more opportunities come your way. And your life will actually be determined more on the opportunities that you say no to versus the ones that you say yes to. And there's a lot of things that come our way that we say no to based on the fact that we believe in our mission, we believe in our purpose and our values. And now we have people in our group, like our clients, who look up to us from a leadership perspective. So like, we can't be showing up one way here and like another way here. Like actually being a coach or being a mentor or being a consultant and doing it with people on a consistent basis is probably one of the best ways for you to live a life of integrity and like authenticity, because you're just putting it out on the line. Same thing with long form content, right? Like we've got over 100 long form pieces of content between our last business and this one. There's nowhere to hide in the long form space. Like you just, if people really want to know about you, they can. And we play a very long game with it too. Like we're patient. And back to being proud, I'm very proud of how patient we've been in the decisions that we make when it comes to like choosing the vehicle that we want to explore this life with. And we're very protective of like our freedom. So like even being here in Bali, right, there's opportunity cost to everything, even to opportunities. Because I saw this post from Dan Bolton earlier, and it was like, most people build businesses that just make them money, but cost them everything else. And it's like,
that today,
it's like, oh my God, sucker punch, you know? Because when I first started getting into this space, it was like, you know, it's very easy to fall into the scale bro trap and like just scale at all costs. But it's not at all costs, because we have values that come before certain things, you know, our freedom, our autonomy, our health, the ability to live every day the way we want to live it, and the only kind of constraints that we have are self-imposed. And if we're going to preach like unlimited to our people, then we should probably do that ourselves, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's super fun, man, and it always changes, but we really do keep lifestyle at the forefront.
I love that you touched on personal branding. One of my mottos is lifestyle design. Most people get put in this box and they start to grow and grow and grow, whether it's their career, whether it's the place they live in, and they start growing into the box, but never actually realize that it's a box. And then now they feel bigger and bigger, but it's a box. They never actually seen what's out there. And I believe your message with Unlimited is also helping people look into or look outside of the box, to use that analogy. And the other thing you touched on is personal branding is essentially a character build, because no matter what entrepreneurial journey you go down, the personal brand and your mindset and yourself is ultimately was what you have, right? Like you can go and have an IPO or sell a business, exit a business, but what you build around your own name is what sticks and what stays around.
Yeah.
And I come across a lot of, we all travel quite a lot. And when you come by places like Dubai or Miami or some of these metropolitan cities where there are a lot of different kind of people, some of them are in shady businesses. They would never give their name to what they're building because they themselves are not proud of it. So when you go out and start building a personal brand, you're giving your name out to the world with your values, what you're building, what you're standing for. That's gonna stick forever.
We have a very interesting outlook on personal brand. We hear that a lot. People want to, how do I build a personal brand? Or, what do I build? And we say you don't necessarily build a personal brand, you reveal a personal brand. Because if you can reveal yourself, and I love Naval Ravikant said a great thing this week on a piece of content that I saw. He said, one of the best things you can do in the world moving forward is to productize yourself. And you got to be careful there, because where I see a lot of people burn out and get exhausted and overwhelmed from this whole personal brand like building thing is they think that they have to build a character in their own life. And one of the most dangerous things you can do in your own life is build yourself a character that you can't keep up with. Or that character gets so much love and it's so detached from who you really are, that's exhausting. So what we help our guys do is we don't, because the words are important, right? The words that we say are really important in the way that we think about things. And we had this conversation earlier about what even a podcast or long form even is. And it's the same with personal brand. We help our guys to reveal their personal brand authentically rather than teach them that they have to build something. And then once they do that, once it comes through authentically, they can consistently do that over and over and over. And that's been one of our tricks. We've never built a personal brand. We've consistently revealed who we are authentically. And that's why we play a longer game, because we know that game can take a lot longer. Like between us, we've done 6,000 posts on social media between us. I think we averaged it out one day. It was like each of us posting every day for 7 years straight. But because we're playing the long game, and like Owen said, you know what it's like being here in Bali. There's opportunity everywhere. You could be anyone you want to be. You could be this guy, that guy. But yeah, I think for us, if to do that for 7 years, and we want to do it for the rest of our lives, ideally, as long as the path keeps going, we have to consistently reveal our personal brand, not build a character, because that can become exhausting.
You can be anyone you want to be, but can you be yourself? And the big question is like, how do you stay authentic with seeing all the people and all the noise outside? How do you guys relate to all the dopamine, all the outside noise that comes from social media? And we know a lot of people in this game, in this industry, and we know that half of them are pretty much frauds and building that character that is not themselves online. How do you reveal who you are, and how do you stay authentic and try not to get caught up in the game of comparison and game of trying to be someone else?
Yeah. I love this topic. We were just speaking about it this morning. I think it was Jay Shetty who explained the idea of detachment, right? Detachment doesn't mean you don't have anything, but it's more about how close can you be to things without them controlling you. That's huge. But that takes a ton of inner work. And back to what we said before about, I love where you went with the question of, do you work out your own personal mission and values first? And we do. We both have personal, missions and values in our own lives, and we bring them together as a company. And one of the only ways I think to be close to things and not be attached to them and not let them control you is to know that deep down. It's the only way. And that can take, you can do it, you can transform overnight if you want to, or it can take a long time. But without knowing where your center is and where exactly who and how you want to be in the world, you get pulled all over the place. You'd be in the pinball machine, smacked around everywhere. So that's kind of how I personally quieten the noise around me. That is, I think some of my life's work is to calm that stuff, because in my own constitution, like personality constitution, I can be pulled towards material things. If you look at my gene keys, if you look at my enneagram, all those things, one of my life's goals is to transmute the material, because I can be pulled towards it. If you looked at my earlier life, it was extremely material, hence why I was in hair, right? I thought it was so important, the clothes, the hair, the fashion, the thing. But yeah, that was because I didn't really know who I was, controlled by it all, you see. So the journey has been to undo a bit of that and really feel, okay, where's my center? And yeah, live life accordingly. Keep revealing that, no matter how long it takes. And that's not easy to do. It's simple, but not easy.
it's not only not easy to build a personal brand, but it's you're building yourself day by day, because you're going to sprint into brick walls and realize that, oh, wait a second, that doesn't work. And now everybody sees me as a failure. And one of the biggest fears of people is failure, right? So what is failure for you guys, and what have you experienced as failure? How do you stand up from it? Do you even feel like it's a failure, or it's just you found another way that didn't work?
It can sometimes be a bit of a redirection. If something doesn't work, it's like there's a very good reason, in my opinion, as to why it doesn't. So a bit of context: before I was even in the hair world, I was a pro cyclist. So when I was in school, I pursued a career in cycling, and I went to Belgium. That's where you go to be a pro cyclist, kind of like Bali to build an online business, right? Like that's where you go to be a pro cyclist. And it didn't work out for me. Like I went all in on it. And after about 4 years, I was having a lot of accidents, a lot of setbacks, and I just didn't enjoy it. Like I remember my first pro race, I just remember thinking, yeah, this is a whole new level. I don't know if I'm at this level. I'd done all of the prep that I could have done in that season leading up to the pre-season, and it just wasn't enjoyable anymore. So I had to go back to my hometown with my tail between my legs and like start again. Even though the last 4 years I put everything on the line, everyone knew me as a cyclist my whole life. I had to shift and move into something else, and that was barbering at the time. But it's the same thing now with barbering. Sometimes there's a time to quit. Stephen Bartlett always says, like, quitting is for winners. Like if you're in a toxic kind of relationship, or you're in a toxic business, or for me at the time, cycling was very toxic. There's a time to leave that thing behind, take the lessons and move forward with the lessons. And one thing that I took from cycling was brand, like always revealing myself, telling stories, writing blogs. I think it was 2011. I wrote like 54 blog posts that year. So like I've been writing for a long time and documenting my story. And I think half the battle really is belief. It's like believing that your story is good enough to tell. Like I had like some of those blogs, if you look back at them, they would have been shite. Like I would have just been waffling on, like talking about nothing. But it's not the point. The point is that like I saw myself and my story as valuable enough to share. And there would have been a couple of people who took value out of reading it. And it's just like the sharpening of the sword. So I look at failure as like a redirection. Like if you're not failing, you're not pushing hard enough. Like you're not trying hard enough. You're just in the comfort zone. I think like failure is a sign that you're trying shit and you're throwing spaghetti at the wall, and like you're going to see what sticks and what doesn't. And as we progress and as we keep going on this business journey, we reduce the odds of failure by putting ourselves in rooms with people who can give us the answers. And I think a massive part of us getting to where we've been is like of the $1 million plus, it's somewhere between 1 to 1.5 million that we've made online. In that, like we've spent or invested about 250,000 on our own personal development. And every year we have a massive budget that we put in place to put ourselves around people who can show us the way, show us a quicker way, a faster way, an easier way, so that we don't have to fail as much. We know that failure is inevitable, but like in 2025, it's a choice. You've got people here in Bali, right? Like you're probably meeting them all the time as well, and I'm sure you can expand on this too. But like you just reduce the surface area of it being possible by just putting yourself in the room with the right people. People who've been doing it for 15 years, 20 years. Like the purpose, mission, values thing comes from our first ever coach, Kerwin Ray, who passed away now, sadly. But like that is such a core part of like our business, and like all the decisions go through that. Everything filters through purpose and value. So when the shiny objects do come up and the opportunities come up, it's like, okay, but does that fit into the purpose and values? And if it doesn't, we can very easily discard it and like walk away from it and be like, yeah, that doesn't fit where we want to go. Or if it doesn't feel quite right, we can pause on it. And I remember you said something when we were playing paddle a few weeks ago, and it was like, if you're not in a rush, what are you worried about? If you're not in a rush to build the business to get to like 100K a month or whatever it is, it's probably better to be patient about like the model you choose, the vehicle that you choose, and persistent in the short term. And we say this to our people, it's like, when in doubt, personal brand. If you don't know what to do, personal brand. Put a picture of you in a waterfall up. It doesn't matter what it is, just if you don't know what to post about your business, people will buy from people. They won't buy from businesses. They'll buy from you. They won't just buy from any random person. So that's kind of a massive philosophy of ours as well.
I can relate a lot on how myself got to personal branding and putting myself out there online. I've always overanalyzed everything. I wanted to find the quickest buck, the easiest buck, everything now, and a lot of them, right? And then you realize that when you start climbing a mountain, you always underestimate how much work it's going to take to actually get to the level of success that you see online or what you want for yourself. And then once you're in the trenches and you're fighting through getting the results, that's when you're doubling down and actually trusting yourself more and more. But as you're climbing the mountain, sometimes you climb it just to realize that behind it there was a higher one. So you have to go down the valley and then climb up again. And I really resonated with what you said on believing in your message and believing that your message is worthwhile to share. Now that comes down a lot to having beliefs around and self-worth, self-confidence in what you have to say. What was some of the biggest mindset shifts you guys have to go through in order to go from being an expert in your field into being an expert that teaches other experts, right? So kind of like your mind must change in order for you to believe that your message is worthwhile enough to listen to?
Yeah, for me it was the classic layers of evidence. So consistently building layers of evidence through my career that what I had was worth listening to or useful for other people. Now there was a point, and it happened before we started coaching online. It started when we were teaching people. So, and Owen actually helped me through this, and we both talk about this day quite often. I was always known to be the great hair cutter. I won some great awards. I was Australian Barber of the Year twice, like did all these crazy things, right? Shot amazing photos and had never struggled getting clients, pay really high prices for my stuff. But that was an identity that I really got married to. And then when we moved into the training world, teaching people, there was something I said to Owen one day, and it was around that. It was around the belief of like, why would people listen to me, right? Even though I'd hit a pinnacle of the industry, and Owen just simply said, there's going to come a time where you just have to assume the role. Like you have to step into the role of teacher, trainer, coach. And it was like that. Something flicked a switch, and I was like, okay, here we go. And that set a whole new trend and path in my life. I was like, okay, and then constantly building the skill. So it actually started there. So when the time came to actually coach people, there wasn't a lot I had to do in here because I'd already built the layers of evidence previously that what I had was useful and worth listening to. So it was just a change of vehicle from going from physical to online. That was the biggest thing for me, really.
I think when you put yourself in rooms with the best of the best, you realize that like you can still add value to that room if you've done a certain amount of work up to a certain point. Like every room that we enter, I know that we can add value. It's not seeing anybody as above me or like not pedestaling people.
Okay.
That's something that has helped me a lot. And there's definitely moments in my life where I'm like, I guess I look up to someone so much and I'm starstruck by them kind of thing. But I went from a young kid in a small town in Ireland, 6,000 people, pictures of these cyclists on my wall, to like lining up next to them in the race. And when you're next to them in the race, you can't be fangirling them because you're racing against them. Yep. And it's like, oh fuck, like I'm here. And I did a live once with Dan Martell. Like I just submitted to be on his live. I clicked the request to be on his live thing. He does like Mindset Mondays or something. And I got on there and I was all a bit like, fucking hell, like I'm on this live with Dan Martell, this is crazy. And like I said something to kind of like fill the space because I was feeling nervous, and he pulled me up on it. I said something along the lines of, I can't believe it. Like, and he's like, what can't you believe? You pressed the button, didn't you? Like you pressed the button to be on the live. What's not to believe about it? And he said, and that there is your block. That's the block, is that you don't believe that it can happen for you too. So like I've had a lot of evidence in my life and in my family's life that like great things can happen if you just apply yourself. Same thing with cycling. I wasn't the most talented cyclist in the world. Far from it. If you looked at me when I was a young kid growing up cycling, you'd never have said that's going to be the kid that turns professional. But I was just consistent. I was persistent. I looked for ways in which I could provide value to teams. I figured out early on that cycling teams are funded by sponsors, and sponsors want eyeballs. So if I get good at doing this social media thing, like Gary Vee says, maybe I'll become more valuable to a team than somebody with more talent than me. And that's how I put myself in those environments. But one of the big mindset shifts for me was like, if we can continue to just be valuable in any room that we go into, we'll always be invited back into the room. And like, even though I was the cyclist, that was my identity. Then I was the barber. Then I was the hair educator. Then I was the mentor, the coach, or whatever you want to say, the business owner, the 7-figure business owner, the 6-figure business owner, all the labels, right? Labels. There's one common denominator in all of those labels.
You.
I was always there. And my skills have stacked upon layers and layers and layers of being not only around amazing people, but having experience. And I think the older I get now, like I'm 31 now, but like the older I get now, the the more important I realised it was to do all of that stuff all along, even though at times I didn't know what it was for, but I knew it was important. So I always prioritised it from day one. I was taking photos of my haircuts when I was a barber, even when they were shit. Same thing in business. It's like I was putting videos out. I was being consistent, even if it was shit now in the modern day landscape of whatever. But something that I used to always say when I started doing hair education was I started doing that very early. So I broke a lot of norms in the hair industry. Lee was in the industry for a long time before I joined it. And like within 2 years, I was on this like global education team, and I was just like cutting hair at Justin Bieber's concert. And I was just like doing all of these crazy things. And I was like, hang on a second. Like, this is all possible. You just have to reach out and grab it, because when you reach out and grab something and you get it, you realize how many people aren't actually reaching out and grabbing anything. So it's not that hard. And I think somewhere like Bali, it's like hyper concentrated, like everyone's making millions of dollars, and like that's the environment to be in. But really it's just a micro percentage of like what's happening on a global landscape. And the world that we live in today, the digital world, we were saying this before the podcast, but today could be the day. Like if you're consistent enough and you have the skills and the experience to back it up, today could be the day that everything could change. One piece of content could just blow up and all of a sudden, millionaire. But you have to be able to hold that, right? Like you have to be able to hold it with the experience, with the knowledge, with the wisdom that you've accumulated over the years. And we say to our people all the time, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. Post the fucking content. Like, if in doubt, personal brand, because it compounds. It's a compounding thing. It's a compound effect. Like, and everybody has an audience. And that's a big realization that we've made recently too. Most people don't start because they think that I have to have X amount of followers before I start. But that's just a silly concept. In anything else, that's just a silly concept. You wouldn't do that in the gym. It's like, I'm going to start going to the gym when I have a six-pack. It's like, you go to the gym to get the six-pack.
Yeah. So there's one line of thought that throughout just listening to you came to my mind, which is limiting beliefs, right? So whether you're raising someone to the pedestal, whether you're being starstruck or fangirling someone, or being in the room with the other $1 million guys, or we're sometimes in room with like big creators and industry leaders, it's quite hard not to compare yourself. And then obviously comparison is the thief of all joy. But going back to the limiting beliefs, you mentioned stacking value is how you get rid of and basically how you're changing your mindset. Most education businesses, coaching businesses, or business coaching in general starts with mindset. How do you guys overcome limiting beliefs? The way I'm asking is because I have a lot of them. Probably we all do, right? It's very hard to overcome them. I've been very consistently working on a lot of them. I'm stacking values. I'm a TEDx speaker, multi-million-dollar generated online and offline, built, sold businesses, raised millions and tens of millions of dollars. I'm stacking the value, but as I'm going forward and reaching for the next goal, I always raise the bar. So on the race to my goals, I never get there because the bar is getting raised higher and higher. So the limiting beliefs are always associated to the next level of your goals for me. And it's something that I've been really working on, to be present and calm and really enjoy life as we're going through, because it's awesome. And we made it to be really nice. How do you guys overcome those limiting beliefs, and how do you deal with raising the bar consistently?
Yeah, I've got a good one. Well, I think this is one of my strengths in coaching, is identifying the big limiting belief. The big limiting belief is tying your self-worth to your output. That's the big limiting belief. If I just get more, I will be worth more to someone. And most people say, I just want to prove it to myself. It's never for you. It's for whoever's in here. And that, you don't have to identify it, but once we understand that that voice in there isn't yours, it was given to you or said to you by parent, teacher, friend, someone when you were this big, then we can start to be like, okay. Then we can bring a conscious choice model around the story, because it's a story, right? We're all walking stories. So that you've got a story in there somewhere that was given to you by someone. And once you're aware of it, you can then choose if you want to believe it. And it's up to you. And so what really settled me in my life, because I was in a similar position, I was addicted to progress. I was addicted to being the best, hence why I went all the way to the pinnacle, just to realize that that wasn't working either. And then I had to understand one day that this is the voice, and it's not my voice. If it was to prove it to me, I would have proved it by now. If it would have worked, it would have worked by now. How many more millions of dollars do you need to make to quiet that voice down. If it was just to prove it to yourself, it would have worked by now. So it's a great place to come back to. Now, this is an in-depth process. It could take hours to get to the bottom of it, but you get to a point where you get to choose if you want to believe that story or not. And it just calms everything down. Like, and you realize, wow, it's just my privilege in this life that I even get to build things again and move the barrier. Because we're in Bali right now and there's people that don't get to do that, right? So I think once you can identify the story and then detach your self-worth or your value to the output, then that'll calm you down again. And that's huge. And I help people a lot with that, because then it opens up the gamut. It opens up the things to, like, these are just tools at my disposal that I can just live a great life with. So yeah, that's a deep process. We could go right into it and pretty much eradicate it in a couple of hours. But yeah, it's huge. And that's how we do it. So we're very aware, but awareness isn't enough, right? You need to be consciously aware and consciously moving with that awareness in your life to notice when the story's coming up and to transmute it quickly. That's the hard part. And that's what I feel like Peter Crone says this brilliantly. That's what enlightenment is. Enlightenment isn't you're free of all things and stories. It's, can you set your life up in a way that you can consistently remind yourself of who and how you want to be in this world? Because if I asked you, so would you prefer it if the only way you could be valuable was if you built the $100 million business to become a billionaire? You'd be like, oh, and the pressure that comes with that, and the overwhelm that comes with that, and the workload that comes with that. It's like, no, I prefer it not to be that way. It's like, okay, well, you get to choose whether you believe that or not. You know, see, there is a difference between your inherent value and your market value. Those are different. So I understand what you're saying. When you walk into a room, it's a bit like at the Matt Gray event. Whoa, Matt Gray's the expert at this systems and personal brand thing, but that's his market value. Okay, let's get to his inherent value. Well, he's a human, so are you. You're all born in the same, we all come in the same way, we all go out the same way. Okay, but what we do in a market, that brings a different value. So we can compare ourselves on market value if we want, or we could just settle into inherent value and go, well, I'm a valuable human. And there's always something that you know in a room that they don't know. I guarantee there's probably 10 things that you know that Matt has no idea about. You know, and there's 10 things I know that he has no idea about. And that's what I always think. I'm like, well, I've always got something in my back pocket. My inherent value is I'm a human. Yeah, in the marketplace, okay, people might be at different levels, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I get to choose the story that I believe. And when we all go home and we all go back and do our things, we're all just back as humans again. With the stories, you know.
So my favorite saying is that after the game, both the king and the pawn goes back to the same box, which is exactly what you're saying, right? What is the market value and what is the true core value that you operate from? And that brings me to my next question, because probably some of your clients and a lot of the people that I work with, no matter if they're 6, 7, 8-figure CEOs or just starting out, or consultant experts, agency owners, no matter whom, they do have fear of judgment. Right? Which again goes back to the mindset, which again goes back to stacking the proofs in your favor, which again goes back to just destroying those limiting beliefs. Fear of judgment, because on Instagram, your high school sweetheart might be watching. Or, you know, what will your neighbor say if you say XYZ and you show up in a way that now you're suddenly the expert? People have that around them. Did you experience that? And after you say yes, how did you overcome that? And what do you say to your clients, or what do we say to our clients when this topic comes up?
I'll go quick fire just quickly, and then Owen can probably elaborate on his experiences. But again, I think this is one of my superpowers, is just identifying this stuff. You know, I feel like judgment is the next thing we need to transmute on this planet. Like, we can't, it's the complete opposite of unconditional love, right? And that's why we have the work that we have. You know, it's the place is melting around us. You know, there's turmoil all over the place, right? And that's a whole nother story for another time. But, you know, to live from a place of judgment is to live to the opinion of others, and oftentimes the opinion of other people that you don't even care about. Okay, and it's at its basic level, at its most simplest level, it's a disempowering way to live. Because what really the story is, and how that comes out, is I am only okay if everything around me is exactly how I want it. And when we work on a conscious choice model, is that a reliable way to feel okay? No, because you can never control, it's almost impossible to control your environment unless you're in a studio like this. But it's almost impossible to control your environment. So to operate from a place of judgment is not a good vehicle to feel, to operate from a place where you want your environment to be perfect is not a good vehicle to choose to feel okay. So what do? We have to choose whether we like that story or not. We believe that story. Again, we're back to choice. So to operate from a place of judgment is a disempowering way to live. All we need to do is turn the story around and realize everything I need is in here. And I don't need that to be okay or perfect for me to be okay. And then all of a sudden, for me, I'm like, oh, I just ignore the judgment. It's like, and there's a big difference between judgment and discernment. Judgment comes from like conditions around love. Discernment is more like, is that a good idea? Is it not a good idea? You know, that they're close to each other. They're like brother and sister or cousins, but they're very different. One promotes love, one doesn't. So yeah, once you understand that, and then all I see as judgment now is it just says more about them than it does about me. Is that not in like a big-headed way or hierarchical way? It's like, that's the best gift you can give to yourself, is to transmute your judgment. And the way that I know people haven't transmuted their own judgment is because they still judge others. You can only do for others what you've already done for yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot, it's deep, and it can take a while to get there, but that's kind of where I'm at now. It's not easy. There's still days where I might catch a bit of judgment and I think, oh, what do they think? But I can quickly transmute it. Yeah.
One of the last topics are questions around this topic, and then we get a bit down into the trenches, that we tend to isolate ourselves to find ourselves, thus traveling the world, going in our little bubble, right, to become the best version of ourselves. Yet sometimes we do go back home, sometimes we see people from the past, sometimes we meet our old self, and we get triggered back to who we used to be and who we work very hard not to be anymore. Right? And it comes back to understanding who you are, what the values are. But there are still times when you just like suddenly catch yourself being the old Roland that gets mad, that gets angry, that raises his voice, that gets nasty a little bit, even to myself or to others. Now, I have to very consciously remind myself to my values and who I am, and sometimes tend to fall into the loop of getting triggered into where I'm coming from. Just a story, like I moved out to Bali a couple of years ago, right? Just to pretty much strengthen myself, both mentally, physically, my business, and it's been a miracle. Like life has absolutely changed. Yet I find when I go back and meet some of the same friends, it's like nothing happened. It feels like the past 4 years have been like, you know, just like a memory. Do you guys ever feel that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it shows you the power of environment, right? Like
it's unreal.
Strength of
it's
like
absolutely unreal.
The environment, you know, to pick up on what both of you guys were saying. I think it pays a lot to like get to know yourself on like depths.
Absolutely.
And this is a deep thing, and we don't have time to go into it all today, but like getting to know the root cause and the depths of like your own kind of personal struggles and traumas, because that's where all the judgment comes from. That's where all of the triggers come from. And they're your biggest teachers in a way. When you can understand that, it's a lot easier to like let go of certain things because you know where it's coming from. But if you have no idea on where it's coming from, or you have no personal philosophy, or you don't know why you might be feeling a certain way about something, then it becomes really difficult. So that's kind of what I'd add there. You know, Kerwin, like my first coach, that's where I really got to know about myself, and that like laid the foundation. Like I went into this business course, right? Paid 50 grand for it. Went into this business course, thought like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking become a scale bro. I'm gonna like make millions of dollars. And here I was sitting around the table crying about my fucking childhood, you know? And it's like, but that was the block that I needed to remove, and it's never gone. And I think that's the thing. I think sometimes we think that we're gonna get to this place where everything's gonna be fine and it's all gonna be gone. I think what we do is we just develop new levels of awareness, and the triggers can still come back and poke us in different ways. And it's like a muscle, right? Like it's like going to the gym. We have to consistently work on it. And we went back to Ireland and the UK last year, and even like after going through that time and meeting my parents again for the first time, it was like I was looking at them as like just other humans rather than my parents, and it was like a really weird triggering feeling. But it's like, just what can I learn from every single situation? And I think honestly 90% of business problems would be sorted if people just worked on themselves and understood what made them tick.
It takes courage to look into the mirror and actually peel the layers off and see what your traumas are, and then realize that you are your own bottleneck, not only in your life but in your business as well. And that's why we start most of our programs with mindset in the beginning, because otherwise you're just gonna go around in a circle. Guys, I think we could go on for hours in the mindset of business and
let's take the armbands off.
personal development, but it's to be able to build the personal a personal brand, you have to understand who you are. You have to look into that mirror. You have to peel those layers off and understand what triggers you, what are your traumas, what are your mother wounds, your father wounds, your PTSDs, because they will come out. When you put yourself out there to thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of people, they will find it. Some of them will purposely find it, and if it keeps triggering you, you will keep getting blocked. And I'm a big believer of that abundant mindset life, especially when it comes to just being able to solve all your past traumas. And I really appreciate, and it's I learned so much about people like you. And there's a reason why we're recording this, because just by sitting here, I'm getting the inspiration to work on separate and different parts of my business, my life, and my mindset. But let's get into the business part of it a little bit. Can you walk me through, after understanding the mindset part, some of the key elements of your business? We understand that a coaching business or a digital business is built up from having a great and strong offer that people actually want, having a system around it so you can deliver it and scale it eventually. And then obviously we talk about the content and personal brand. How do you think about building a content business? Is it building a media company? Is it building a digital company? Is it by this point merged together? Where are you standing?
It's funny, we always said like years ago, it's like we're basically a media company, because the majority of what we've done and what we've been able to do has been from making content and posting it out into the world. So like the highest leverage activity that we can do in our business on a day-to-day basis, if nothing else happens, is content. If we don't do anything else, we focus on that. And that's why we have Demo here with us in Bali, and that's what we've been saying for the last week or more, years really, in the grand scheme of things, because that's just the world that we live in. Like, look at where the attention is. Like, people are on their phones, people are consuming stuff, and it's really a skill, right? Like getting good at it. And it's a habit more than anything else. And it's like, why not? Because it's the thing that breeds creation. It's like creation breeds creation. If we're creating and we're putting stuff out into the world, and we have a great thing that we can help people with behind the scenes, which is like our business, then why not do it? So I guess the key elements of our business now, we've gone from the service-based B2C, like barber to customer type relationship. Then we went barber to barber, and now we're kind of like business to barber, and eventually we're going to go business to business. And we're setting it up in a way where, we have kind of like our core offer at the moment, which is our mentorship program. And for up until this point, up until very recently, it was just for barbers. But then we realized the model that we explained earlier, the unlimited model is what we call it. Making money, make impact with the work that you do, and create a life of freedom for yourself. And the three main things that you need to do in order to do that is to attract customers and team into your world, retain them, and then build a great delivery system on the back that can actually manage growth, whatever growth looks like. So we explain it forwards, but we build it backwards. We reverse engineer it. So it all starts with a great plan, knowing what our 5 to 10 year kind of goal is, and breaking that back down into like a year, quarters, and then every 6 weeks. So we look at like different projects, different things we have coming up. We work in 6-week blocks, we review, and then we move forward, because we used to work quarterly, but then we realized, well, the world's moving so fast that like we actually need to work in 6-week sprints and then review it then, because 6 weeks is just enough time to get shit done, but not enough time to fuck around. Yeah. It's like, let's get to work, let's do this stuff for 6 weeks, come back to the drawing board and go again. And then we systemize as much as we can. But, there's been a bit of resistance lately around like goal setting, because the world is moving so fast. It's like, the goal really, the meta goal is just to work on personal brand. Because if you can just do that, everything else is possible off the back of it. Life and business is 100 times easier with an audience and with people who know you, like you, and trust you than it is without it. Because you can have all the ideas in the world and you can be the smartest person in the world, but if nobody knows you, nobody knows about your stuff, good luck selling it. It's impossible. So if nothing else happens on a day-to-day basis, it's personal brand, it's content. And that's the vehicle, right? The content is just the mechanism in which we reveal our personal brands, and we do that on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, so like we can have all the strategies, all the tactics in the world, but without something to kind of plug it into, like a trust machine, where does it really go? So yeah, we have our mentorship offer. We have digital products. We've packaged up everything that we've kind of done before with hair, and that's available for people if they want to buy it online. And now we're just kind of navigating forwards, and we just have some people that are with us in our group, and we're helping them do it. We're helping ourselves do it. But really, it's just a way of kind of thinking, It's like a mindset that unlimited and where it's going is kind of like, who knows what's going to happen? You know, look at what happened in the last 5 years. Anything can change anything.
Absolutely. I'm a big system and framework guy. As you guys know, I build a lot of systems, and what I hear from how you guys speak as well, that you have mental models, frameworks, and systems essentially you live by. Now, if you have to break some of these systems down, you mentioned just recently the goal setting, right? So a good goal setting system that works is having a mid to long term goal, which is 5 to 10 years, and then break it down to 1 year goals and then go into quarterly and 6 week goals, because the world is changing so fast that you cannot really have a 1 year goal because everything's changing, right?
Well, like we said earlier, today could be the day, right? Like if you put out a piece of content today and your business demand quadruples overnight, that could change the entire plan. So then you have to be lenient with the plan and flexible with it. Like if Stephen Bartlett calls you up tomorrow and says, hey, Roland, I want you to be on the Diary of a CEO next week, and you fly there and you're on his show, your life is different. That 5 to 10 year goal might have been like too small, you know? So like everything changes off the back of something like that.
Some of my clients come to me with, and they have 1 million followers, and I heard this several times before, that Roland, my personal brand blew up. It started raining, but I did not have the buckets ready. And that brings me back to the other framework or system that I'm hearing out as you speak, is that you have the coaching offer. Basically, if you look at it from a framework or system perspective, it's basically have the high ticket program in the back end where you understand everything that you provide for your clients. That also stacks the value of who you are and makes you understand who you are and what's the value you're providing. Then dissect that into smaller programs and front-end products, like your courses in the front end or lead magnets, and put that in front so people are able to get started understanding, building trust, learning from you. And as they build and as they learn, as they trust you more, they can ascend to your higher program. And essentially, this is how you create a product ecosystem. Would there be anything else that you would add to this?
I think like one of the things that we are pairing up right now with that concept of today could be the day is like, if today is the day though, do we have the buckets? Do we have the systems? So what we're spending our time doing now is assembling the buckets and doing it in a way where it still doesn't breach our values, right? Like the lifestyle first business still has to be front of mind, top of mind. So yeah, that's been a big journey in like figuring that kind of stuff out. And that's why we like up to now, to mention as well, like everything's been organic. Like we haven't done any paid ads, nothing like that. It's been all organic, personal brand. Like that's what we've kind of done to get ourselves to this point. We know that if we turn the thing up on steroids with the ads, that it could happen. It could blow up overnight. But like, who do I want to be when that happens? What kind of business do I want to run day to day? Like, I want to make sure that when the buckets are assembled, that they're assembled in the best possible way for the life I want to live. And like, sometimes I question myself and I think, is that me just avoiding the success of it? Or like not wanting to go all in? But I think time will always tell. And like, I'm not in a rush, you know, like I'm already in a decent position. I already feel good about life. Life's already great. Let's protect that at all costs. But something that we have been, like I said, pairing up with Today is the Day is like, let's prepare everything behind the scenes to be able to like manage that and control that. And you know, if you look at Silicon Valley, you know, they always say fast growth is also like fast death, right? Like some of the best and biggest companies that exist in the world today took 10 years, 20 years to get to the point where they're at, because they just built it slowly and they built the systems into it to be able to handle the supply and the demand when it came through the door. So again, we're all the way back to belief again. You have to believe that one day it will be the day, and it's setting it up in a way where if that day comes and when that day comes, you're ready. You know. And I think there's a part of us that like we'll always make it work, like if it happens, but it's better to kind of have that knowledge beforehand. So yeah, that's still a concept I'm kind of exploring, but I don't think you're ever fully ready for anything. It's just one of those things.
So you mentioned that, you know, life is good. We are in this comfortable position. Life has not always been this good, right? So and there are a lot more people before the journey than after the journey, based on statistics. What advices could we give and could you give to those experts, consultants, barbers, business owners, founders that are very hesitant to start leveraging social media to grow their business?
Leverage is a great word there.
Yeah, leverage was, well, I was thinking about this as you guys were speaking there earlier. One of the big blocks with a lot of people with social media content is their perception of it. So in today's world, let's think about clients, right? Every business needs people, but it's your acquisition which is going to change. So one of the blocks for a lot of people is there's this mass transition from the industrial world to the digital world. And how did most people get acquisition in the industrial world? It was either in person, word of mouth, you had a shop front, you looked in the newspaper, you heard the radio, you saw the billboard. All of a sudden, that's analog acquisition. It's changed. Digital acquisition. The acquisition of customers and clients has always been there. It's just changed form, and it's changed form in such a big way that people, what's that thing in psychology? People hate what they don't understand. They just don't understand it. That's why they're avoidant of it. That's one of the big blocks. The big blocks on social media and even this whole idea of using content to get clients, it's purely their perception of it. When it first came out, everybody thought it was a nice thing to show pictures of their food and their friends, what they're up to. But then smart business owners thought, hey, this is an actual customer acquisition strategy. Cool. And once you can see it as a digital acquisition tool, that's all it becomes. It's a tool. And Matt Gray posted it about 2 days ago. Offline is the new luxury. And I believe him. Because there are people out there that I think are giving fundamentally bad advice. They're saying, oh, don't be too loud and don't, be too flamboyant online and not too much. And, all this, to me, it's garbage, right? Because would you board up the windows of your shop back in the day? No, your shop was visible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you want to take that to the digital world, which is free, by the way, for the most part, why wouldn't you have it open and available and visible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? The reason people don't is because they're too tied to their identity when they're using it as a consumer. Once they can flip that to become the creator and see it as a digital acquisition tool, like the keyword being tool, then your perception of it completely changes. Then if you don't personally want to do it, because there are a lot of people that if they've got a little bit of an addictive personality or they get too sucked into it on a nervous system level, outsource, pay a team. You don't have to touch it if you don't want to. In the world of personal brand, yes, I advise you to be the person in front of the camera and be the face of the brand, the founder's voice. But if you don't want to touch the thing, you don't have to touch the thing. But it is important that it happens. That's the caveat. It is really important that the digital acquisition happens, moving into the future. But if you don't want to touch it, you don't have to touch it. I'm sure you know tons of entrepreneurs, and I do too, that don't even touch their social media pages. They just don't. What do? They implant a beautiful, elegant system that does it all for them.
Absolutely. I know a guy who happens to do this system.
Yeah. Does anyone know anyone who does great systems like that?
I wonder.
Amazing. One thing that caught my attention is you said that being the flamboyant, putting yourself out there and being loud. Now, I think there's a clear distinction between being loud and being cocky and arrogant, right? So just because you're loud or flamboyant in your messaging or in your personal brand, it doesn't mean that you're a dick, right? And we come across a lot of dicks on social media that just like show-offs and with zero value. So if I reframe what you're saying is basically authentically show up for your audience and provide the value that your business does for them so they can get to the next level.
So when that's a great thing that you picked up on. So the way that I frame it to our guys, when I say loud, what I mean is that there's just a general volume level of content out there, right? There's just a sea of content. And when I say loud to my people, I say make sure that you turn the volume knob up enough so that you can be heard. So, because they can confuse that with when I say, oh, be loud, they think their videos have to be, I don't mean that. I mean, authentically show up, but make sure the volume's up so you can actually be heard, like as in consistency and the amount of content. If you're posting once a week, like good luck. Your volume just ain't high enough. But if you're posting 5 times a week, we're getting there. 7 times a week, we're getting even further. Twice a day, all right, now your volume's way up, so you've got more of a chance of cutting through the noise. And that's what I mean by loud. There's a general noise level that you kind of have to compete with and try and cut through,
I think that when people struggle to show up and post online, it's just because their stuff isn't valuable enough. Because if it was valuable enough, you'd have no problem showing up and posting it. It's not solving a big enough problem. That's the thing. It's like if you have the cure for cancer, are you going to be quiet about it, or are you going to let everyone know? Like the stuff that we do for people now versus what we used to do, like cutting people's hair, changing them cosmetically and making them look a certain way, versus the transformation now where we help these barbers who are feeling stuck, for example, get time back with their kids to be able to see them growing up, to make more money, to use that. It's not like they're making millions more. It's just they're making significantly more that helps them live a better life. Like now that they don't have to worry about bills, or they don't have to worry about missing their kids' soccer games on a Saturday, or like that. Why the fuck would I not shout loud about that?
Absolutely.
You know, like that's why we do this in the first place. So it's very hard to shout loud about something that you don't believe in. And it's very easy to shout loud about something that you do believe in. So like I think a lot of creators just aren't doing something that has a deep enough purpose. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
It's an interesting question, because I'm gonna drive it back to mindset. You might not be posting content because your stuff is not valuable enough, or you might not be posting content because you do not believe your product is valuable enough. One of them is a product problem, and the other one is a mindset problem.
Yes.
And this is why it always comes back to the mindset, right? Like, first of all, have a great product. Like those years of social media where you can just put together a PDF and sell it is gone. Like information is commoditized with ChatGPT and AI being out there. You have to very authentically solve problems in order for people to actually start trusting you and being there. Now, once you know that program or product is valuable, you have to believe in it, right? If you're there watching this video, still have questions about mindset, I advise you to go back 30 minutes and rewatch that period, because we talked about mindset quite a lot. Now, wrapping this section up in our conversation, what would be one piece of advice that you wish you received 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago in the beginning of your journey? Because after having posted 6,000 posts, after me personally editing 1,000 videos and putting it out there with 50 million views on it, we understand it, but we did not always understand it. So what is one few advice that you wish you received when you started out?
Mine would be like, don't be afraid to ask for help. And like whenever that's brought up, it kind of pisses me off, because it's like, oh, well, of course you'd say that because you have a program that can help people, right? Like, and that's the kind of conundrum that we're in these days. When you give advice, it's very hard to believe who's telling the truth, because, oh, you're just saying that because you want me to buy your thing, you know? And it's like, don't even worry about my thing. Don't worry about any of our things. Ask somebody who you trust, who you know, who you like. Just get the help sooner, because there's a tax that you pay for not knowing the answers to things, and it's called dumb tax. Like, and I've paid a hell of a lot of dumb tax in my life. And like, I could have just paid for speed. I could have paid for information earlier, went straight to the source instead of trying to figure all out by myself and letting my pride get in the way. It's like, more pride isn't going to solve an empty bank account, you know? And with an empty bank account, you can't do anything. So if I could go back, I would have said, Owen, just pay for the speed earlier. And like, I think I've had a pretty good journey with that in terms of like how I've always thought about it, but I would have even put it on more steroids. Like, I would have paid for the help sooner. And that's the advice that I'd give to anybody else, because I see so many people avoiding that. And that's the thing that's going to get them there. Like, we wouldn't know how to have built the business that we have now if we hadn't invested that 250K into our own education. Because now we have the skills and the knowledge and the expertise that we've built by doing that to make money forever. Like, we're not going hungry again, you know? So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I totally agree. We get asked that often, what's the one piece of advice? And we always say, just get more help earlier, pay for speed. But something that rings true in my career is just don't be afraid to be seen. If you can't work on that, I think I spent too long behind the scenes, and it paid off. You know, I was getting good at the thing, but I had this belief that I couldn't be seen until it was perfect. You know, again, where that core belief came from, like, why would people listen to me? Because in my head, I thought it wasn't perfect yet, you know? So that's something that if anybody struggles with that, and I know a lot of people do, is that's why they don't use the online space, is because there is a fear of being seen. And I think if you can overcome that as early as possible, you can have a much maybe not smoother, but you're going to have a bit of an easier time getting ahead, because if you're not afraid to be seen, you're not afraid to be loud. If you're not afraid to be loud, you've got a better chance of cutting through the noise. And I can't remember who said it, but you know, it's basically like, you know, success is given to the one who just goes and gets it. Like, if not you, who? You know, if not you, who's going to do it? What's the difference between you and someone else, the $1 billion dude? Not much, except the other guy just thought, I'm going to go get it. You know, and I'm not afraid to go and get it, and that's something that I would tell anyone watching this is just, if you can get over that fear of being seen as fast as possible, start posting the content, because success really is just given to the person who chooses, I'm going to go get it.
What would you say to your past self? Same question.
The best advice I would give my younger self is just start now. Don't overthink it. Nobody cares about you as much as you do, and you care so much that you think to believe that everybody else does as well. And when you start recording and then you just post it, you realize nothing happens. But yet people are putting it off for years. Because first, okay, I got to go through this editing course. Then I need to learn scripting. Then I need to do this and that. Oh my God, my design is not point. 2 years pass and you have no one video posted. I just came across a guy, I had a conversation, and he said that, yeah, I very proudly saying that I've started 3 podcasts and I have 3 YouTube videos that I've started, but they didn't work. So I didn't post after the 5th video. And I was like, very interesting way of trying to gain status quo by emphasizing you have 3 podcasts. What I'm hearing is you have 3 podcasts that failed and you have 3 YouTube videos you never continued. So what I hear is that you're very good at giving up. What are you helping people with? And he couldn't answer me. And later that night, he reached out and messaged me thanking me that, fuck man, I needed that tough love a lot. And I was that guy at one point. I was taking pride in starting something and never talked about not finishing it. Until I doubled down on, first of all, building my personal brand, helping others build their personal brands and systemize their businesses, and building a system around it, because I realized that I don't fucking like to wake up every day and be in front of the camera. I actually do enjoy conversations. I do enjoy the amount of brains I have around me and the industry leaders, but sometimes you just feel off. Right? But once you implement the systems, as you mentioned previously, to make sure that you have your content and your face out for your business, even when you don't feel like it, this can be batch production, this can be a team, this can be, different kind of systems, then you've done the work and you stopped overthinking it. We've come a long way from pressing record and posting the first video to actually having systems to ensure that we cranked up that volume and we have videos going out or content going out every day on several platforms.
It's huge. One kind of core philosophy of mine, and I haven't fully thought this one out yet, but I haven't really heard anybody speak about this before, but it's that like your life is your business and your business is your life, right? I see a lot of people label themselves as like a business owner or whatever it is, right? And they create this like separate identity, and like the industrial age has done that to people over time. It's like I work and I live and they're separate, and I go and I do my 9 to 5 and then I'm somebody else after my 9 to 5. But my kind of philosophy is that like your life is your business, so it's your business to look after your life, so it's like that is your business. Even if you're an employee, even if you work for somebody else, it's your responsibility to look after your life and treat it as a business, because your life is your business. It's what you are busy doing, right? Your busyness. Yeah. Like what are you staying busy doing? And like nobody else is going to do it for you. Like nobody else is going to feel like your life for you. You have to do it. So my kind of core philosophy is that it's like, no, my life is my business. So if that's the case, why don't I just design it in a way where none of this feels heavy? None of it feels like something that I don't have to do. Yes, there's formalities, like everybody has to deal with the admin side of business and this and that. But like, look at what it gives you. Like on the other side of that, it can create a fantastic life. But that's the way I like to look at it, because, you hear a lot of people get into business and kind of complain about it, but like,
why are you getting into business?
What's the point, right? Like, but whether you have a business or not, or you're like a business owner, technically on paper, your life is still your business though. So like, it's still your responsibility. And I think, a lot of the time people, like employees particularly, will kind of like pass the responsibility onto like the owner to do it. But it's like, you're the owner of your own life. And like, I think that's very empowering for the right person when they hear that, to be like, oh, hang on a second. If my life is my business, then it's my responsibility to look after it. So it's like, mind your own business, mind your life, like look after yourself. Like your employer is not going to be the one that makes you rich.
And I think it sums up beautifully what we talked about, that if your life is your own business, then you really have to look outside of your box to see what are the philosophies, what are the values, and what is the life that you want your business to be.
Yeah, you are the business, essentially. So, and that sums the personal brand thing up really, really well. So it's like you are the common denominator. You're going to go with you wherever you go in life. So why not build? Because nobody wants a business, right? Like I've heard this guy, he's not just this guy, he's a great guy actually. James Kemp is his name. You know James Kemp? And he's like, nobody wants a business. They just want cash flow that supports their lifestyle. Exactly. And that's it. Nobody wants a personal brand either. They just want what the personal brand can give them, which is money,
status,
impact, freedom.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you can make money by doing impactful stuff and you can live the life you want to live and you can have freedom, That's an unlimited life to me.
Guys, I could not ask for a better wrap up and a better summary. So I really appreciate coming by and having this very valuable and meaningful conversation with me. And I'm super excited to see where you're taking your personal brands, your lives, and your businesses. And we'll be in touch.
100%, bro. We keep
100%.
playing paddle.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming.
Thank you.
Much
Appreciate
love.
it.
And thank you guys for listening. I really hope that this was super valuable for you too. Make sure to follow these two gentlemen on social media. And if you're already here, make sure to subscribe and follow me as well on the social media channels, because I'm going to be bringing a lot more valuable content for you. Take care.